What comes to mind when you think about automating in your business? Sometimes I think overwhelm. Sometimes I think impersonalization. Sometimes I think ease and flow, but it can all be overwhelming. And I usually think about automation when it comes to marketing tasks. Today, I have Michelle Nedelec on my podcast, and she's sharing all things automation. And she taught me a mindset thing or two about how to think about automation in offline situations, not just online, and with your entire business altogether. And she's giving you some great tips and ideas on how to get started, where to start, and how to avoid the pitfalls of all of the tech and all of the money. International best-selling author Michelle Nedelec is an expert in entrepreneurialism and the founder of Awareness Strategies. She's run her own series of companies for over 22 years, and for over 15 years has been helping sales reps, entrepreneurs, and executives to continually double their profits and revenues. She not only has what it takes to help her clients build $1 million business, but she does it time and time again. Michelle particularly loves to talk about marketing automation, systems integration, and support both on and off the stage. She teaches the key components of scaling a business: strategy, systems, support, and state of mind, so you know how to continually elevate all four components to build a healthy, thriving business. For the past 6 years, she's been focusing on helping entrepreneurs bring their businesses online from conceptualization to done-for-you IT automation. She also happens to have a great sense of humor and a love for stilettos. There's some great examples that she shares in this episode that I think will have you thinking about the way that you set up automation a little bit differently. Doesn't need to be overwhelming, doesn't need to be scary, but just needs to be there to help you save time, money, and be the best that your organization can be so you can serve as many people as possible. But before we get into this episode, it is brought to you by our digital marketing therapy sessions. If you need some time with me one-on-one, but don't need to bring in a full consultant, these digital marketing therapy sessions are great for you. Go to thefirstclick.net/office hours, book your time now, and let's get moving on some of these digital marketing strategies to help you keep your business and your organization moving forward, especially now that we're in the really busy holiday and giving season. Again, that's thefirstclick.net/office hours. Let's get into the episode.
You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern, and each week I bring you tips from myself and other experts, as well as hot seats with small business owners and entrepreneurs to demystify digital marketing and get you on your way to generating more leads and growing your business. Hey everybody, please join me in welcoming Michelle Nedelec to the podcast. Michelle, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome because I think automation is a game changer in organizations. But why do you think that automation is scary and gets people all nervous?
I think because it's based on computers and most people freak out about computers. Don't want to know how they work and don't want to know how to use them.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like I hear people talking about all the different things that you can do. And then I automatically go to, well, I don't have all this fancy software or these crazy data people to help me do it, or like all these IT people. I mean, it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Right. I'm not Coca-Cola. I don't have $1 billion budget to be able to spend on this and figure it out. And I think the worst part too is that because people think, especially when they're starting out and they don't have a lot of spare money to spend on stuff and go, hey, let's try this. Let's try this is more of a conceptual idea sort of thing. And when you're a startup, it's not, hey, let's throw money at this and see whether or not it works. And I think that's part of the problem too. So we end up doing things like getting our nephew to go and figure out how to get stuff done because, they are notoriously fantastic at just trying things, whether they know how to do them or not. And it can be very intimidating, especially when there's a lot of people that are really good at marketing, and they'll go, hey, you need to have this thing because this tactic is going to be the tactic that saves your business. And it's completely not true. They're just trying to sell something. So what we do is we help people kind of back up the bus and go, okay, what are you trying to achieve? What's the strategy behind what you're doing? And learn to ask way more questions than you're putting money towards those decisions, so that when you do put money towards those decisions, that you know that it's going to get you at least from point A to point B, if not, C, D, or E.
Right. Well, there's so many tech solutions out there that if you just start to go after, I need a tech solution, you'll go down a rabbit hole that will lead you nowhere.
Right. And there's more coming out every day. So we work with a software that's been around for like 15 years and it's got notoriety, it's got robustness to it, and it's awesome for techies. Like techies can get in there and they can make stuff happen. And so we can support the creatives and the spontaneous and the idea thinkers, the visionaries in being able to fulfill their ideas. But a lot of these companies are just going, hey, that's too complicated. We just want to make a simplified version of it. And we're going to sell this aspect of it, which sounds great. And is it less expensive? Yeah, it's way less expensive. But we all have tons of software sitting around on our desktop or hidden somewhere in our computer that we know we spent money on and we kind of forget what it does. And we haven't had time to look at it. And, along with those courses and so that perpetuates everywhere. And that's not just unique to small business. That also happens in big business because, somebody has a great idea. It's like, yeah, this is awesome. And then nobody has the wherewithal or the team to be able to put it into place. So it is systemic. It is not focused just on startups. So what we do is we help businesses to simplify their tech to the point that they're focusing on the one thing that'll get them to the place where they're making money that can get them to the next place, that can get them to the next place. Because oftentimes they're going, I just need to make $1,000 and then I can make $2,000. And once I made $2,000 and I can make $4,000 and it becomes kind of, it's upward, but it's still a very linear expression. And what they don't realize is when they have the right team with them, you're going from, hey, I don't have anything, but we're going to put things in place and we're going to make 4,000. And then we're going to make 8,000. And then it shoots up faster because there's a plan behind it. And it's not just a wish and a prayer.
So what kinds of things might people want to automate?
Great question. The things you want to automate are the things that you do 3 times or more. And so my dad used to have an expression, once is an accident, twice is a mistake, 3 times it's a habit. And he was kidding that it was he was telling me because it was on the bad side of life, but the same thing also happens on the good side of life in business. Yeah. So when you do something once, you have that spontaneous reaction to it and it's fun and it's exciting. If you do it again, you're honing in on that message and you're going, hey, that worked twice. Awesome. This is great. Once it works 3 times, again, that's a habit. And now you want to figure out a way to either, if it's a bad thing, you want to delete it. If it's a good thing, you want to figure out how to duplicate it, or you want to figure out how to automate it. So oftentimes people will write the same email over and over again, or they'll answer the same question over again, or they'll onboard a client in the exact same way over and over again. And I used to start with just make videos of that. Like if you, especially if you're doing it on Zoom, it's super easy. Just hit record, make a video of it, and then put some bumpers on the end and call it your onboarding video. Say, hey, we're super excited that you signed up with us. Here's how this is going to go. And that exact same conversation you've been having over and over again, now you have it on video and you can send it to people so that they can watch it when they're comfortable with it and they can go back to it and remind themselves what they've signed up for, which is awesome. So it makes it easier to figure out what you can automate. And if you can't automate it for some weird and bizarre reason, then you can start to look at, hey, can I get somebody else to do this? And it is a system. So whether it's sending somebody else out to a networking event and saying, okay, this is exactly what I say, go and say this, and then just go and make friends and you'll be fine. And at least that way, especially if they're nervous and they don't know what to say at a networking event, if they've never been to one, they're just doing you a favor, then they have an idea of what to say and they have an idea of what works. Because if they start saying weird stuff at your networking events and everybody's going like, I thought you guys did that. Yeah, we do. She got nervous. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I love this because you're talking about automation from an offline perspective as well, not just from a techie perspective. And I love the examples that you just shared are not like crazy tools that you have to go out and invest in. It's literally just how do I make the best use of my time? What are the things that I can share? And we'll link up in the show notes because the 2 examples that you just said, we did an episode a while ago on creating a promo kit, which is just like you said, all the messaging that everybody talks about. And we also did an episode on like networking events and having better quality conversations. So I'll link those up in the show notes. But I hadn't, which is weird, hadn't even thought about offline automation in the person to person space.
Oh, absolutely. Oftentimes, especially when we get really good at what the message is. So initially when we start a business, it's an idea that we have. The visionary has kind of gone, hey, I think we should do this. This would be kind of cool. And we end up having like 6 different conversations with 6 people, but we notice their reaction. Who leans in? Who goes, hey, that's a great idea. Hey, I want to know more. And subconsciously we attach to that answer that we gave them. And then when somebody else asks, we give that same response again because we like the endorphins that we got from the first time, which is fabulous, but it makes for an unconscious competent. And that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. When you can figure out what that is, or you can record it and give it to somebody else, that makes it a repeatable system that works. You're creating what we call conversions. Now, in the digital world, those conversions can start to apply to your organic social media, which is awesome. It can apply to your paid digital media, which is awesome. It can apply to kind of all of the aspects of your business that you want. So you'll notice there's a lot of companies out there, the more established ones, that are still using kind of older videos and evergreen programs because they work. They got the conversions. They're still doing the thing. And if it's not broke, don't fix it. So they're still using the thing. So if you're brand new in this, absolutely don't worry about it. Just keep recording, because if it works, you're going to keep using it. It doesn't matter what you sound like, doesn't matter what you look like. If it converts, keep using it. And if it doesn't convert, then great. You just scrap it and you try again. You do another one.
Okay, so when we think about, like, we're in the startup phase, we're automating. I love the things that you just talked about because they're not super techy, they're not super expensive. But at a certain point, we need to automate more tasks to grow and scale. So as we think about, like, I always like to reverse engineer my sales funnels or my donor funnels and like kind of start at the end result and work its way backward. Do you think that that's a good kind of way to approach what tech you might need to integrate in order to create some of those automations?
Absolutely. It's one of the best ways. And in fact, I don't know if there's another way that you can do it that makes it effective. So the benefit of starting with the end in mind and working backwards is that you start to understand the complexity of it. So one of the biggest issues I have with most businesses and most, ironically, engineering firms is that they tend not to go through their client's ideal journey and figure out kind of what does the flow of this look like. So I compare it to traffic. When you're driving down the highway, you really want to have the traffic signs before the turnoff. I know
Right.
that sounds kind of obvious, but next time you're driving around, you're going to notice there's a lot of traffic signs that are actually after the turnoff because it seemed like the most convenient place to put it. There was more room there in the little triangle between the turnoff, so they put it there. But what that says to the driver going down is, okay, this turnoff has happened. Now I see the sign. And when you're doing your programs, you want to make sure that you realize that just because you've been inundated with your information for the last 6 months and you know this inside out and backwards, they don't have a clue. They haven't seen any of this. They have no idea what the name of your talk is. They have no idea what the name of your company is. They have no idea what your name is. And all 3 of those could be very confusing to them. So you want to make sure that when they start off, that they are going, hey, how's it going? Do you have this problem? Great, come on in. We've got some stuff for you. And it becomes very inviting and very first time-esque. So, but the only way you can figure out kind of where they go after that, once they've walked into the door, is by figuring out where do you want them to get to in the end. Because if you've ever taken a tour of somebody's house, you can get stopped in any room very quickly and you're just standing there talking and the tour doesn't carry on. When you're doing that in business, you want to make sure that they're getting to wherever the party is. So if the party is in the backyard at the patio, you want to make sure that the tour ends up in the backyard at the party. Same thing happens with, say you're having a 3-day event and you're, for whatever reason, you're going, oh, okay, people aren't really getting what the 3-day event is. So we have to do some education on it first. So what kind of education is going to entice people to come to this 3-day event? What kind of information do they need before that in order to be enticed into the information package? Okay, what do they need before that to be able to get there? So it could be something as easy as, like, I don't know about you guys, but we have the SPCA in town. And the SPCA has fundraiser events. And fundraiser events, although fun, if you say, hey, we're having a fundraiser, a lot of people go, oh, God, do I really want to go to another fundraiser? I don't have money. I don't want to do that. I'm going to have to dress up. And you want to be able to educate them. Oh, it's not one of those kind. It's going to be super fun. We're going to have, kids, bouncy houses. We're going to have lots of puppies. We're going to have this, that, and the other thing. Okay, so that whole design of what the event's going to look like becomes an educational piece. So, okay, how do we get them into that educational piece? And then you start creating little, what we call opt-ins or invitations to people like, hey, are you a dog person or a cat person? And that can be just a fun thing for people to answer because we all love self-identifying, right? So we self-identify as, oh yeah, I love the puppies. Puppies are awesome. And then we get put into a group. And once we're in that group, it's like you want to invite people to the puppy fundraising party because I don't know about you, but I think it's a terrible idea to have kittens and puppies at the same fundraiser because, they just tend not to get along as well as we do with them. So you could actually have two fundraisers. So you have two different channels of people coming in. And it's not that you're avoiding your cat people at the dog party because they may actually love both and they want to spend it. They just happen to answer cat at that one point in time. But it's being able to then figure out, okay, we have a bunch of, we're going to have a really special day with a bunch of puppies that are, coming in because maybe you just got a whole litter of them or about 5 litters of them. Like, oh, what are we going to do? So you want to be able to make it as much fun as possible, right? So maybe you put party hats on the puppies and you get people to click on which one they think is the cutest. And you're moving them forward into this realm of, okay, hey, we're having this event on this day and it's going to be awesome, epic, and fun. We're going to have some fundraising aspects of it, some games, some, string tail on a puppy kind of thing, and whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
So that you're, from the beginning to the end, how that tour goes for them, but you have to start at the end in mind and go, what is this thing that we're trying to create and why would people want to show up at it?
Well, and I love this example. I don't even think you necessarily intended this to happen, but you talked at the beginning about repeatable actions, and like an example like this could even be something that is replicatable as a online fundraising event over and over. Like if you test it out, like just some of the fun engagement interactive things, like all these emails can be automated and you could say, oh my gosh, this worked really well. Now I'm going to just duplicate this whole series and we're going to run it as an online event, even without puppies, because without live puppies, right, to reach a bigger audience. So exactly. I think what you're saying is testing things, seeing what works, and then just doubling down on it.
Absolutely. And then once it works for the dogs, you can do it for the cats, you can do it for lizards, you can do it for all sorts of fun stuff. And if you have a system that allows you to catch how many people opened each email, how many people clicked on how many links, a lot of people, when they start talking about it, they're usually techies. They get really excited about talking about numbers, and I get that. But what it does is, if you can see it, it just makes it really easy. If you're going, oh, this is like 50%, 50%, 50%, 0. Hey, something's wrong with the 0. I mean, that's all it is. That's all you want to look at is if it fell, what happened? And then you can look at that email, that link, that landing page, that whatever, and go, hey, is this giving us the same message all the way through so that people are getting what they expect? And if they're not, then you change it and then you run it again. And the next time you go through, it's 50, 50, 50, 25. Okay, we did something right. Yay. and making the numbers simple for not... simple in the essence of why are we looking at numbers? Mm-hmm. Like I can get into a spreadsheet and be, I can delve into it and make it insane. But at the same time, I'm like, why are we looking at the numbers? Like there's really no point in getting overwhelmed by numbers when you don't have to, when all you're looking for is how do we streamline this? How do we make it more effective? And how do we make it so that the effort we're putting into this is actually useful? Because that's really what it comes down to is we can be, taking a toothbrush to the baseboards, trying to make them clean. But if nobody's ever seeing them, then that's not helping build our business.
100%. Well, and I think this example is also genius in that I think a lot of people hesitate from automation also because of it becomes impersonal. The fear is, well, if I automate all my emails, if I automate this campaign, if I automate this, then it's impersonal and people are going to know it's an automation. But I think what the example you just said kind of proves that wrong, because you can really create some of those engaging things and segment people in ways that it's personal to them without you having to do all of that work.
Exactly. And it brings back to, if you've done it 3 times, it's the same. They don't know that it's not the first time you said it that way. But if it's worked, keep saying it. And when you want to use that spontaneity is in questions that you haven't got before. And can automation be done wrong? Yes, we've all seen it. I mean, we've all gone to Facebook pages where we go to ask a question. It's like, hey, our hours of operation are 9 to 5. I'm like, well, I didn't ask you. So why are you telling me that? Whereas if it's an inviting thing, it's like, hey, welcome to the page. Any questions you have that I can answer? And they go, what are your hours of operation? You go, oh yeah, they're 9 to 5. Awesome. You've still got an automation, but it's done in a way that carries the conversation, which brings us back to start with the end in mind, and then take your client's journey through that and test it so that you can see what it feels like. And if it doesn't feel good to you, then change it so that it feels awesome and amazing. And if you can't figure out a way to make it feel awesome and amazing, talk to somebody who does that, because odds are pretty good they know how to make it feel awesome and amazing. And they'll say things like, well, don't say it this way. Say something like, how would you normally answer a friend that says, hey, do you have some more stuff? And then say it in your words. And you go, oh, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Because we think we have to say it in a way that's automated as opposed to saying it in the way that we would say it.
Well, I think that's a good point, too. Also, in like automation to me is kind of like a puzzle. Like when you think about a donor journey, there's certain pieces that aren't necessarily automated, right? Like you can't automate a phone call or automate a card, a handwritten card, but you can automate a workflow that notifies you that you need to write that card. So I think we can build in all of that personality to some of those automations in our workflows, but then still be much more effective and save time because we're not having to like manually process like what's happening on a day-to-day.
Well, and it's funny you should say that, because you actually can automate phone calls without them sounding nasty and cheesy, and you can automate writing cards. So it's, and again, it comes back to, if you're going to say the same thing 3 times, then stop it and record it and figure out a way that makes it not sound cheesy and automated. And or if there's no way that you can get around it, it goes something like, hey, Sammy, there was no way we could get around this. We needed to send this message out to 100 people. So I hope you don't get offended. And we got this event coming up. It's going to be epic and cool. And I really hope that you can show up there.
So keep it real.
So yeah. And there's ways that you can actually take your list and put the whole list into that conversation so that Sammy gets her message, Michelle gets her message, Dave gets his message, and it sounds automated without being automated. It sounds like you're included, but it is still automated, and you're telling them it's automated. And you can do the same thing. Send Out Cards has a fantastic program that integrates super well with Keep Max Classic. And it allows you to be able to, especially if you have an event, like you have everybody showing up at the fundraiser and you want to send them a thank you note saying, thank you, your contribution to being there at the event was fantastic and awesome. We appreciate it immensely. And we hope that you're joining us for, more events. Mm-hmm. You can absolutely send that out to 100 people, and it still feels fantastic and awesome. So it goes back to, if you're going to do it 3 times, automate it. If you're doing it for the first time and it's a unique conversation, like somebody calls up and says, hey, I'm just wondering, I'm bringing my paycheck. How much money should I bring in it? You're probably not going to answer that question a whole lot of times, right? So then you have a unique conversation with them. And that's where your people come in. That's why you want to hire people, is because people are spontaneous. People are creative. People are kind of that messy, throw paint in the wall kind of thing. And that's where you want to bring them. It's not into the, we just need to have this done 28 times, because that's when people screw up.
Right. Well, and I think that's a critical conversation right now, too, in conversations we've been having with clients and in workforce issues is like, instead of maybe thinking about, we need to hire XYZ, maybe now is the perfect time to audit. Like you're saying, what are the things that we're doing repeatedly? And how can we maybe pull some of that stuff off and into an automated situation so that then our existing team can have more
You do the
bandwidth.
fun stuff, right? You think about accounts receivable or something. Say you have like a monthly membership and somebody's credit card, changes expiry dates, or it got compromised, so they got a new card. Nobody on the planet likes making that call going, hey, your credit card didn't go through. And nobody wants to get that call from somebody to have to admit like, hey, yeah, I ran over. Sorry, you're going to have to run it through again. Nobody likes having that conversation on the planet. So you get a computer system to do it and send out an email that says, hey, we noticed that your transaction didn't go through. We can try again, or you can click here to update your credit card information, right? We want that to be automated. Nobody wants to have that conversation. But by doing that, if you have a membership site, you can not only save yourself $500 a month, but for the amount of time it wastes having an account receivable person having to go and make those calls. So one, you've already justified the cost of your software on that one. Two, it allows you to not lose accounts receivable. Because I don't know of a company out there that doesn't have accounts owing because nobody wants to make the calls and go, hey, we haven't charged you in 3 months. we kind of have to charge you for those 3 months. And, nobody wants to have those conversations. So to be able to justify that cost right there, if you have a monthly membership, you should have automation taking place in that and not having people take care of that.
So kind of the last question, because there's so many good things here. I don't want to overwhelm people too much, but I wanted to, so we talked about starting from the end and working your way forward, but then your, accounts receivable example is great as well. So is it something like, how do you tell organizations to maybe start to do an audit of what are some of their repeated tasks? Because I do think sometimes we just do them. We don't even realize we've done them so many times because it's just so much part of our day to day. So how might we audit our tasks to figure out what we can be automating?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I used to do executive coaching, I used to get all of my clients to put a piece of paper down next to them. That's when we use paper. You can use your notebook.
I use paper. So I like my notebook.
Right. Write down your day as you're doing things. And it might be, 9 o'clock, I'm doing emails, and you go and do emails, and then you get up and go and get a coffee. Okay. 10 o'clock, got a coffee. You come back to your desk, 10:01, started working on, blah. And just notice all the things that you're just in general blocks like that. And then in a little while, and it's usually by the afternoon, it's not that long afterwards, that you start to know, okay, that's too generalized. That's not telling me what I need to do. And what I'm doing is actually this. And then you start to get more specific on what it is that you're doing. And then you start to get frustrated because you've done it 3 times. You're like, okay, I need to automate this. I need to duplicate that. I need to delegate that. I need to quit doing this. Yeah. And you can start identifying, because I'd get them to put 4 words at the top. And I was trying to remember what it was. You either need to delete it because it's not getting you anywhere. You need to delegate it. You need to duplicate it. And there was one other one. I forget what it was. But basically, it's being able to get somebody else to do it because you can pay somebody less than you can basically make in an hour. So it's not about, a lot of people also get there and kind of the hair on the back stands up because they're like, oh, nobody's less than me and blah, blah, blah. And I get that, but not everybody's as competent as you are in a certain area. So you might be super good at fundraising. You might be super good at getting people to adopt puppies. You might be super good at whatever. And that skill, you haven't quite figured out how to duplicate or replicate yet. But you could get somebody to file your paperwork that's on your desk, or send take the business cards and put them into the software system, or whatever it is. And you can hire them for, $10, $15 an hour, whereas you can make, $25, $50 an hour. And it doesn't have to be that huge of a gap. It just has to be a noticeable gap.
Right. Like, what are the things that only you can do?
Right. And truthfully, there isn't anything that only you can do. But we like to think that that's the way it's going because we are kind of the visionary of the company. So that's totally cool. Be the visionary of the company, though. You can delegate everything else. And when you start to think, I can delegate everything else, it starts to become really fun because that means you get to do whatever you want to do. So if what you want to do in a day is go around and pet puppies and make them happy and make them not feel like they're in little cages, then you can go and do that because somebody else is taking care of the operation. Somebody else is taking care of the fundraising plan. Somebody else is taking care of all of the other things. And you get to be the voice of the company and do videos and all that kind of fun stuff, which then gives the company personality. And that is a super valuable skill to be able to be willing to be on video and talk to people about how cute the puppies are or whatever.
Well, for example, I mean, I'm the host of this podcast. It would be weird if somebody else showed up and was interviewing you. Like, that would feel weird. But
Right?
I don't need to then do the editing of the audio and do the transcripts
Exactly.
and the show notes, right? Like, all of that stuff we have like in a system that's halfway automated. So yeah, I think that's great. And then I think the other piece that I'm curious for your thoughts on with this is, you know, when you have a team and everybody kind of, if you challenge everybody to kind of do this for a few days, like, have you seen major aha moments at how many times a task is being replicated across multiple people, and like how you can even kind of automate and streamline things in that case?
Oh, absolutely. So we work with everybody from solopreneurs up to multi-million-dollar companies. And it becomes even more obvious in multi-million-dollar companies, because if they have silos of data, as we call them, the sales department has a software that they use, accounting has a software that they use, marketing has a piece of software they use. And then all of a sudden they're having to talk to each other and go, hey, what do you know about, Mark Smith? What do you know about this? And they're having to manually update that data. It becomes paramount how much time is being wasted, how much unnecessary things are happening that could be manipulated. Now, I don't know if I quite answered that question. I was going somewhere with it, and all of a sudden I lost where I was going with it.
No, I think you did, because it's, it's just how do we, like, we can get, as we grow and scale, I think some things can get lost in the shuffle and we kind of forget who's doing what. And then you just keep doing it. And then you just keep doing it. And then you just keep doing it. And all of a sudden you're like, why are we doing all of these things? Like, where did we start from? So I think people can get mixed up because you're so focused on growth and scale.
Absolutely. And one of the fun things that can happen, how many times they replicate something. Yeah. So when we ask them, how often do you do this? And they're like, all day. That's what I do. And it's like, manually? Yeah, we manually move data. And it's like, you have computer systems for that. That's why you have computer systems. And so it's a matter of just kind of educating them on how to be able to use those things and how to use them right. The biggest thing we see with solopreneurs and being able to build their business is oftentimes they'll take 3 months to do what somebody else that's skilled could do in 15 minutes an hour. So they'll go like, oh yeah, I just have to build my site and I'm going to build it on Wix. It's like, well, you could. And it'll take you 3 months to figure it out and how to do it. And is it easy? Yes. And does it look cute in the end? Yes. But is it functional in the end? No, because you're still having to use a Gmail account because you can't get at yourbusinessname.com and all sorts of things. So we go and people will have spent months on their site figuring it out. We will take that site within the week. We'll replicate it on a WordPress site and put in the proper forms and things like that. So it's now they can make money off of their site, whereas before they couldn't make money off their site, and they took 3 months out of the business, and. So you start to see when the owner or the leader, the visionary of the company is wasting time doing things, learning how to do them, they're stopping their growth, like dead stop. Yeah. Whereas when they can delegate to us and say, hey, I need to have this done. We have an event coming up. I'd like to do it, maybe in 6 months. It's like, well, why in 6 months? Well, I think that's how long it's going to take us to get there. And we could do that, at the end of this month. Would that make sense? If we can get all of those things done that you were going to do in 6 months, we can get them all done in 1 month. Would it make sense to do it at the end of the month? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. The event's going to happen at the end of the month. Let's go make this happen. And then we go and do all the tech. We do the promotions. We do the advertising. We do the social media posts. Everything, the graphics, everything is getting done. And you're creating the activity in the bubble, the conversation. People are getting excited about it because now it's not happening in 6 months, which nobody gets excited about, but it's happening at the end of this month, which everybody gets excited about. And everybody loves a party. So you should figure out a way to incorporate parties into your business somehow.
Key takeaway from this episode: incorporate ways to have parties in your business. No, exactly. I think that's so good. And Michelle, I just love the whole thinking of how do we reverse engineer what the end result is going to be, and then how can we take a look at the tech tools that we might need and automation we might need to say to kind of justify the monetization of it, and the fact that we need to factor in our time and the dollars that we could be generating versus kind of the DIY piece. Michelle, if you wanted to give people kind of one last takeaway about how automation can kind of help them grow and scale their business, like what piece of advice would you give businesses?
The piece of advice I would give you is to figure out what you want to create in your business and then figure out the software that can make that happen, as opposed to looking at a piece of software and going, oh, that's really pretty. Can we make that work in our business? Because that's a terrible way to do it. Yeah. Don't do it that way. Figure out what you want to do in your business and how you want it to operate, and then figure out what can make that happen for you. Because I guarantee you it's out there. It is. You just have to be able to figure out, kind of have a vision of what that is. And then when you're talking to people, go, hey, this is what I want to create. Can you help me make it? And if they say, well, sort of, it's not your person. Okay. Do you know somebody who can? And just keep door knocking until you find the person that goes, yeah, absolutely, we can do that. And here's 3 other people that we've done it for. Talk to those 3 other people, ask more questions, and you spend money. It's my big one. Talk to those people. This is what I want to do. Do you think these guys can do it? Yes. Great. Okay. Now let's look at the possibility of going with them. The problem is most people spend money on things that they don't really know will do the job. And you don't need to know how they do their job. You need to know what you want. It's like I tell people when they go to a lawyer, everybody thinks a lawyer is going to solve their problem. Lawyer's job is not to solve your problem. Lawyer's job is to make happen what you see happening. And how do you do that in a legal and ethical sort of way within the confines? So you need to have the vision, you bring it to them, and then they make it happen.
Perfect. Well, Michelle, if people want to learn more from you and learn more about you, how do they do that?
We have some fun assessments and quizzes and all sorts of fun stuff going on the website. So you can go to awarenessstrategies.com and you can go to the website audit. You can go to the business assessment. You can go to the marketing assessment, the branding assessment. We have a whole ton of them for you. So whatever you think might be your concern in business, go and do an assessment on it. Get some clarity about kind of where you're at, what pieces you might be missing, why, and that might give you the clarity on why that thing you're doing isn't working. Is, oh, that one, I need that one in place first. Okay, great. And off you go to the races and you're good. At the end of all of them, you can book discovery calls with us and we'll help you to actually figure out how to implement it in your own business, whether you have your own team or you want to do it yourself, or if you want to look at the possibilities with us, we are good anyway. We just want to make sure you're moving forward in your business.
So good. And all of these resources will be linked up in the show notes at thefirstclick.net/175. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Big thank you again to Michelle Nedelec for joining me on this episode. I'm excited to kind of review my systems and kind of see what it is that we're going to continue to change and grow and what things I can move off my plate. This has been a conversation that I've been having a lot. So I'm sure you've heard it here on this podcast. So I'm excited for another reminder to jump right back into it. I'd really appreciate if you subscribe wherever you listen so you don't miss a single episode. They're all out on Tuesdays. And make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And if you prefer to watch the video versions of these episodes, you can always find them at thefirstclick.net/YouTube. We'll see you in the next one.